Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. We are here from the Reckoning Trade Project and ANEW Apprenticeship Non-Traditional Employment for Women to talk about the kickoff of our Affinity group that will begin the last Thursday in June from 6 to 7 p.m. So we're going to use this time to really talk about ourselves, our organizations, and why the Affinity group is so important. So why don't we start out with you, Deontay? Can you give an introduction of yourself and your role at ANEW?
Yes, thank you so much. My name is Deontay Damper. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm the apprenticeship navigator for ANEW. And what I do specifically in that position is geared towards youth that have been affected by foster care in between the ages of 18 and 20. I love this position because it's so essential with giving a compass to our youth who are going through that space that are aged out. So when they're aged out, what does the direction look like? What is that passport? I'm very proud to say that I love this position because ANEW has the compass to help guide those youth. And just really happy for my fellow colleagues and the community partners that we have to make sure that we're providing the resource to them.
Great, thank you. Che, you want to give an introduction and what your work has been with Reckoning Trade Project?
Hi, my name is Che Arsenault, they, them. I'm a retired iron worker. I did 30 years in the trade. I started with the Reckoning Trade Project right after retiring. And we just help marginalized people of color and queer people navigate the trades, get in and where they fit in and do what we can around that. And what else was my question?
That's great. That's great.
Sorry.
Karen, do you want to give a brief introduction and what you do with ANEW?
Sure. My name is Karen Dove. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the executive director of ANEW. We've been doing pre-apprenticeship training for 40 years, over 40 years, focused on initially getting women into the trades, but with the acquisition of the PACE program, we have cohorts that are female or those who identify as female, and then we have co-ed cohorts also. So our goal is to get people family wage careers in the construction industry or in apprenticeable careers. Really it's a ticket. I just heard recently the term a ticket to the middle class, you know, people typically that are that have been marginalized or oppressed, and having them just have the ability in a very short period of time to have a family wage career and be able to take care of their families. It's pretty incredible.
Great, thank you. And I will talk briefly about Reckoning Trade Project. As Che mentioned, Reckoning Trade Project was started in 2018. I'm one of the co-founders, and we are focused on increasing retention and representation of LGBTQ folks in the trades. We do that through networking and mentorship programs and groups like our Affinity group that we're relaunching. We have the educational forums for employers, pre-apprenticeship programs, and we have a newly revamped website with a lot of different ways for trade workers to engage. So please come check it out. Okay, let's go back to you, Deontay. Why do you think, can you explain what the Affinity group is and why it's important?
Coming into the space of understanding that when we're talking about trades, when we talk about the job market in the space of our community in Washington State, we know that it's flourishing. But by providing those specific jobs, who is it inclusive to? We know that predominantly the majority of the people that are working in these construction positions are cisgendered, hetero white men. And although ANEW has done a great job of being in the space of inclusion, now it's time to partner and start bringing more conversations when it comes to our LGBTQIA and non-binary brothers and sisters in the space to find a safe space. And that safe space has to look like growth. That safe space has to look like what resources are out there for our community members. So providing them with legal knowing their rights, providing them with community allies who state that I affirm. That's really important to especially someone getting into the spaces of the trades, because I think one of the things that I got from one of my newest clients here said, where do I fit? I don't know where I fit. I've been doing flagging for a while and I don't know if it's enough for me because I can't be myself. This is a space for him. This is a space for her when she is going into her spaces of work and she's being sexually harassed and she's getting ignored because that's the way to go. This space is for her. This space is for them. When we say what our pronouns are, it's not a requirement. It's not an option. It's a requirement. That's what this space is for. So when we talk about affinity group, this is going to go beyond. So I'm just really excited about starting this space, and so many different unions have reached out to say, how can I sponsor? How can I show up? Like I can't believe that this is happening. There's never been an affinity group for trades. And this is so important. So I'm just really grateful to just continue the work that was started last year with you all.
Thank you so much. Che, will you chat a little bit about why you think that, RGP and having a group by and for trade workers is important?
Yeah, I think it's really important because when you're at work every day, it's hard to feel like you're just there. It's actually hard to feel like you fit in and you are a part of it. And so this is a place where people can come and be a part of and learn their rights and learn all the things that they can do to protect themselves and to become more a part of, run for office, take those steps that are necessary for us to be seen, not just be an invisible person out there working. So I think it's, way important.
Great. Thanks, Jay. Karen, do you want to talk a little bit about why this affinity group is important?
Yeah, I mean, we know facts on the completion rates of people of color and women in the trades, but it hasn't been up until very recently that even ANEW has tracked or asked for how people identify with their gender or their sexual orientation. And so we barely even, start having any data on what's really happening. But we know when, African-American men are only completing at 33% and women are completing at 34%, we know that the chances of an LGBTQ individual completing is lower than that, because I do trainings every day. And when I get to the pronoun section of my training, inevitably at every single training that I do for Rise Up, people are making comments that this is the first time they've even ever done this in the construction trades. And so it's not something right now that's normal. It's not something that that people even understand. And so there's a lot of growth that has to happen. And when we're talking about family wage jobs for everyone, that means everyone. And it doesn't mean we exclude people, and we can't exclude people who identify in different ways. We have to be able to include everybody, and they have to be able to, as Deontay said earlier, show up in their true authentic self at work and have the expectation that they're treated with respect and dignity. And that's the bottom line. It's how are you treated when you're on that job? And right now it's not very good.
Great, thanks, Karen. Yeah, and I'll add to that just briefly that, since Reckoning Trade Project has started in 2018, we've seen so many folks reach out to us, so many trade workers that are very isolated, that think they're the only one, that know there are other LGBTQ trade workers out there, but don't know how to contact them, don't know, where to go for resources. And then when we have presented at conferences like the Women Builds Nations conference, we really saw, while we all sat together in a room, how people were exchanging ideas, they were exchanging legal resources, they were exchanging tips for survival on the job site. And so it's really trying to create a space where we can have people with the lived experience bring together, this is what I did, this is how I survived, and this is who I reached out to. And information of how do I get further in my job? How do I do something? Who do I talk to at the union? What is the union supposed to do for me? All the things that you just kind of go into the job and you learn as you do it, but you can learn from others. And we want to create a space where everybody can learn from each other, be supported, be respected, generate ideas and solutions for issues that are happening out in the workplace. And so the last question I had for everybody is just a little bit of brainstorming of, how do we shift the culture of the trades towards inclusivity? I have personally heard people say, oh yeah, good luck. Let's see if that ever works. Having gender diversity in the trades, ha ha. Don't hold your breath. And I absolutely believe that we can change the culture. So Deontay, what are some of your ideas for changing the culture of the trades?
I think one thing that I've always learned is stop asking for a seat at the table and build your own. And I think that that's what we're doing in the spaces of inclusivity. I think by just providing the space, and I think I said this before, I've been watching Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. And I think with more creating this Affinity group, I think that a lot of our community members will feel that this is a safe space, will know that there's a resource, will know that we're doing more than just being there. The trade space is such a revolving door. We're coming out of a pandemic, and we want to make sure that our community members know that there's a space for us for them to come to. It's kind of like Cheers. They're going to come to where everybody knows their name. Everybody knows your pronouns. And it's more than just a trade space. There is so much that we're all impacted with internally. I love what ANEW and Reckoning Trades is doing with the specific space of this program, because it's also working on the wellness, the well-being of individuals, the well-being of all of us.
Thanks, Deontay. Okay, Che, what do you think is a way that we can shift the culture of the trades?
I've thought about this a lot since retiring, because of working with Reckoning Trade Project and knowing Karen and what she does with ANEW. I really think I've racked my brains about it, because it's so hard to feel included when you're out there in the actual space of working. I've come up with that a lot. I think what we need to do is train the officers in the union so they know what inclusivity is, not just us. We already know, and a lot of us who are out there, we know, but how do we get across to the union so that it's accepted for us all to be there, and so they understand that this is a needed process that needs to happen. Learning has to take place, and it has to come from up to down, and then also from down to up, both. So somehow we can all meet in the middle, and that there is more inclusion at work, and people don't have to feel isolated, and we don't have high suicide rates, and we don't have massive drug and alcohol addictions, because this is how we escape this. It's important.
Great. Thanks, Jay. Karen, what do you think? How do we shift the trades?
I mean, 4 years ago, when I said I was going to create Rise Up and shift the culture of construction to one that's more inclusive, a lot of people laugh at me. And I agree, Morgan. I think that, there's a lot of skepticism as to, can we actually make this happen? And, I'm teaching classes to managers on a weekly basis, almost on a daily basis right now. And when I see situations where people are speaking up and foremen are getting fired because of inappropriate behavior, I finally feel like there's some hope, because it's not going to change if there's no consequences for behaviors. We need to have programs like Rise Up, programs that Reckoning Trade Project does. We need to have education and awareness around these topics. Awareness first and foremost. Again, some people don't have experience with somebody who is gender diverse. And so when you don't have that, depending on how you were raised, you don't even have an awareness of what it is or what it means. And we have to get that awareness out there. We have to educate people. And then there has to be consequences for some of this stupid behavior that is happening. And we are finally seeing that. We are finally seeing reporting go up, and we are finally seeing people get fired. And, you know, people might think I'm mean for saying it. I don't feel one bit of sorry for, and not only fired, but banned from all jobs from that company. Like, this is the first time I've ever seen something happen that I was proud to be in the construction industry. So I just feel like there's hope. I feel like we have a long ways to go, but I feel like there is hope, and I feel like people get it. And contractors that know there's not enough white men to fulfill your jobs, there's not enough white men to get you more work, to make you more successful, they're the ones that are coming to the table and making this happen and making change happen. And there are some good contractors out there, and we just have to keep uplifting them too, because the ones that are doing good work and are trying to make a difference, we need to recognize that they're out there.
Great, thanks. And I'll add that, you know, why we started Reckoning Trade Project was looking at the history of the labor movement, the power of the labor movement, the power of women in trades. Like, the labor movement is a movement that makes change. And so we have a history that we are rooted in that is based on change, and that is from workers, that is from people that are in the trenches forcing change to happen. And so I really see the Affinity group as just the next level of bringing folks together and saying, how do we create this change? It's unavoidable. We will force it to happen, as people before us have done, and as people in the future will do. But we are going to come together, harness our history, bring together our power to make this change happen. And so I think now is a good time to just kind of wrap up, give a summary of what the Affinity group is going to be. So I'll start a little bit. We're planning a monthly Affinity group, so it'll be the last Thursday of every month. As I said before, it'll be from 6 to 7 p.m. It will be on Zoom until we feel it's safe to meet in person, but also it might continue on Zoom to ensure that we can reach the most amount of folks. Anybody is invited who is in the trades, LGBTQ identified. And if people are interested in joining, they can reach out to myself or Deontay. Information will be on the ANEW website or the Reckoning Trade Project website. And we'll request an RSVP so we know who's showing up and can kind of moderate to ensure that we don't get any doxing or anything like that. And so we'll have an hour-long meeting. It'll be introductions. It'll be talking about know your rights and legal resources. We'll hopefully bring in speakers, bring in allies. And we're also looking for partnerships from unions and private businesses. Deontay and I talked about, you know, using sponsorship money to help with a direct mutual aid fund for trade workers that need assistance with buying tools and paying their union dues and just everything that comes up for marginalized folks. Deontay, do you want to speak on it anymore?
Yes, we do have some speakers that are coming. I'm really excited about some of the speakers that we do have lined up. It means a lot when we do have allies in our community, and it shows the minute that we put the flyer out. How can I be of service? And that's the main thing that I'm really excited about. When the youngest youth that I have in my program says, I haven't even told my family, but I'm a part of this community. And I want to come to this. This looks so much fun. That's what we do have planned. And before we do get off the line, I do want to just, again, I know I said it earlier before we started on the line, but Shay, the work that you've done in the spaces of community is what is our why, right? We are very thankful to be following in your footsteps in the space. You helped move the way for us to build the table to invite other people in. So I know that sometimes in the spaces it's been very hard, but we appreciate you and we thank you for this.
Great. Thanks, Deontay. Okay, well, that wraps up our Facebook Live. This is to provide some information. Please reach out to us, Morgan@reckoningtradeproject.org.
Deontay at ANEW.org. And also just check us out. Also, we do have a Inclusion and Diversity Summit. So we'll have that link in the chat as well.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank y'all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Nice seeing y'all.